Hi everyone. After TMM, we meet again for the season finale. The New Delhi Marathon, as it is rightly called, signals the end of the season. Although nowadays that definition is increasingly getting blurred with races happening every single weekend in every major city. But be that as it may, at least for the season runners, Delhi marks the end of the season, after which they go into a hibernation or a base building period before they come back with a couple of 10Ks and then build their way up for the new season. So Delhi is always known to be a flat, fast course, a course where many PB has been achieved, many a BQ has been achieved. We have a couple of people here. One of them has achieved her BQ there, Aditi, and she's she's not going to be running Delhi this time. But she's going to share her pearls of wisdom based on how she went about achieving her BQ there. And then we have Aravind, who is chasing his BQ in Delhi, right? And finally, we have the local lad, Sanchit, who's quite a bit of an enigma, actually, right? The guy says he hasn't trained well and then goes and runs a 250 in, the first edition of the Sydney World Major, right? So it's interesting to see what he can do. He's going for glory in Delhi, basically, whatever that means, with I'm sure a lot more training under his belt. So Sanchit, hi, and we're having it's really a pleasure to have you on this show for the first time.
Hi, glad to be here.
Yeah, fabulous. Yeah. So Sanchit, you look like somebody straight out of a 70s spaghetti western, actually. Somebody who's from Once Upon a Time in America or one of those Clint Eastwood thrillers, basically. So is it a conscious effort on your part to maintain this look, or it's just organic, basically?
Well, it happens on its own if you just keep running every day, I guess.
Okay, right. As straight-faced as it can be. All right. So let's cut to the chase. Delhi, as I said, just to give a brief context, is a flat, fast, two-course race, right? If you're running a marathon, you're going to repeat, as are most of the NEB races. You'll be running a 21K loop or 21.1K loop twice if you're running the marathon, and of course once if you're running the half marathon. Some things that are unique about Delhi, it's a pretty early start. I think this time around the marathon starts at 4:05 a.m. and the half marathon, I'll have to check, probably it's about 6:15 if I'm not wrong, basically 6 or 6:15, right? So in that sense, there's a good window that they give whereby most of the full marathoners have completed the first loop and are somewhere in the middle or somewhere on their second loop. So that way, they don't the traffic that merges between the half and the full doesn't happen. Delhi's been a constant process of learning for the organizers. Every edition, the race has got better and bigger. And this year, I'm sure, is going to be a much bigger version of this race. With those basics out of the way, we'll probably do a deep dive on the route and then share our experiences. So we're going to break this segment down. Just a brief overview before we really cut to the chase. We're going to break this route down into about 4 to 5 segments, right? We'll do one iteration, one sweep of the entire route, and then we'll discuss about some of the caught our eyes, if you will, on this route based on our experience, right? So with that, let's focus on the first segment. You come into the precincts of the Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium, right? And yeah, we'll be running this map so you can see this map. So we're going to keep panning, zooming in, zooming out of this map so that you know what we're talking about. It's not just talk, but we're also going to kind of walk you through the route. So as you see, you start in the precincts of the Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium. You drop your baggage, you do whatever it is. Basically, I think the gate numbers and all are given to you in an email. And one more thing in the previous editions that I hope NEB has addressed this time around is that long walk from the holding area, the warm-up area to the holding area.
So that will be there, Karthik. So basically, we are entering at gate 14, that is here.
Okay.
And this is the warm-up area, luggage area, all that. Then you go around the track to start line here. So
I wish they can do something about that, because that in itself is a warm up, actually, right? Yeah. I mean, that is not a very optimum solution. We will definitely, I mean, this is something that we missed conveying to the organizers. Let's see if they can do something about it. So be ready for all this. That's why we say reach early. Because the start line is going to be a little crowded, I don't think they have a corral. Do they have a corral system in Delhi? No, right? No, and I don't think it's going to be any different this time. So the start is going to be, there's going to be a fair amount of pushing and jostling at the start line. So just be a little careful, reach in time, reach the holding area or the start corral, with the least amount of effort that you can expend. Okay. Okay. So once you go there, our first segment starts, which is basically the segment from the gates of the Nehru Stadium complex all the way until the on Bhishma Pitama Marg. On Bhishma Pitama Marg, then you take a left onto the Lodi Road, and the first segment that we're discussing about, as Aravind is showing with the cursor, ends somewhere on Lodi Road basically. Okay. So now what you should be careful about in this section? It's early in the morning. I would say reasonably well lit. At least the Bhishma Pitama Marg section is reasonably well lit. Once you take that left onto the Lodi Road, it's a tree cover area, especially in front of the India Habitat Center and the Air Force Bharti School. So there are going to be some dark patches, right? And there's going to be a lot of crowd running with you in this section. So be sure that you don't trip any runner, or you yourself don't get tripped. It's a flat section. Of course, there is that cobblestone area around the Sai Baba temple on the Bhishma Pitama Marg, right? But that notwithstanding, it's a reasonably flat section. There's a slight uphill gradient on Lodi Road until the U-turn basically. But early in the morning on fresh legs, you're not really going to feel it, right? Then you take that U-turn, and then you come back. That's a pretty that's a reasonably well lit. That's a well lit section actually, all the way until about the 5th kilometer. Now I'm going to take a pause here, and I'm going to throw it out to our guests on what, if there's something else they want to add about this particular section or whatever we've discussed so far. So Aditi, let's start with you. What do you think? You want to add
Karthik,
something to this section?
Thank you. Thank you for the intro. And from my experience, what I feel, and I'll echo what Karthik said, is please come a bit early. There is enough there is enough space to warm up. And being a marathon, I'm sure the nerves will be playing till you start, and till the race starts. So I'm sure you have visualized and you've seen the map, either yourself, you've run before, or you've spoken to your friends, and you've gone through the route. As Karthik again mentioned, that there is some cobbled area. Be careful there, because it can come as a shock, especially for people who are running for the first time. For those who have ran before, it is an uneventful first 5 kilometers. It is basically as uneventful that you can tune yourself, you can get yourself in the zone. There will be some patches which will be dark, so mind your step. Ensure that you are not too close to somebody else. Also, for people who have trained in higher altitudes, this is so flat that the fresh legs might feel that let's amp up from the beginning. Don't do that. Keep telling yourself that slow down, slow yourself down, then even what you are thinking, right? That even if you think you're slower down, because the first 5 kilometers will go and the race will not begin till 35th kilometer.
Yeah, thank you, Aditi. Aravind, would you want to add something, especially from a pacing perspective?
Yeah, I would suggest stick to the basics. This is a two-loop course, as Karthik mentioned earlier. So since it's a two-loop course, it's always wise to take the first loop more steady and calm. So in that sense, you start probably 10-15 seconds slower than your goal pace, the first kilometer at least, and then slowly come closer to the goal pace. So anyway, first kilometer you will have quite a bit of crowd, and comparatively, this is a good point that we were discussing before the recording. This year it will be slightly warmer compared to the previous years. So that would mean that your first loop in terms of pacing probably has to be a lot more conservative compared to if you have done it earlier. So what it means is that first loop you would have to be conservative, which would mean that first 5 kilometers will be ultra conservative. All right. So I would do, if I have to pace myself, I would be pacing probably goal pace and minus 5 to 10 seconds, so that first 5 kilometers I'll kind of get into the rhythm.
Sanchit, I'm going to add a twist over here. A lot of our friends are gunning for a sub 3 on this course, right? They say if it's not here, then where? I want you to wear the cap of a sub-3 marathoner and tell such people how should they approach this initial part of the course. Because see, some people say we're going to go 4:15, 4:10 from the moment the gun goes off. Would that be a good approach, or would you still align with what Aravind says and hold your horses back in this very initial section of the race?
I feel pace-wise, Arvind's advice is spot on. You can't go at your target pace right off the bat. But the issue with this stretch is that, of course, you will find a lot of people and you'll need to find your own way. And if you are going for a sub-3, I guess the first 1 or 2 kilometers are going to be crowded for you. After that, it gets a bit sparse and you can do what you want. So in terms of the pace, don't expect that you can run your 100% target pace in this stretch, but it might feel like the same effort as your marathon pace effort, is what I think will happen in these 2 kilometers. After that, it should be fine.
Perfect.
So one small change. This year, elite start is 5 minutes earlier compared to the marathon start. It's a change.
Yes.
I think last time around, women's start was at 5 minutes before the men's open marathon start. Men's was much later, around I think 4:45 or 5. I think something like that.
Yes, traditionally the men have started later after the open goes
Right.
off. But
So
I think
this year
this
they're
time,
starting earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, 5 minutes. They have a 5-minute head start, and I think it's both the men and the women who are going off at 4 o'clock, and then we go off at 4:05. So I think that's a great point you make, right? The other thing that a lot of us, some of us who've run probably international races and then come and run Delhi find very disorienting. Running at 4 a.m. in the morning, running in the dark, right? A couple of runners have told me that they find it really difficult to run in the dark. It can be a little disorienting, right? So that is also one reason why you should probably start off conservatively and kind of get get the lay of the land, get the lay of your environment before you switch gears. Basically, just a quick point that I wanted to make. Okay, so like Aditi said, I think I'll borrow that word, a very uneventful section, but a section where you are kind of finding your rhythm basically, right? So be it if you're 15 or 20 seconds off your goal pace, but the more important thing here is to find the rhythm. So then once we move ahead, right, after the 5th kilometer or around the 5th kilometer, you take that left onto the Khan Market Road, the road that abuts the Delhi golf course. Now, this is a slightly testing part of the course, right? This road is, one straight road that goes almost until Khan Market. That's why we call it the Khan Market Road. And you take a U-turn and then come back. And all along you are abutting the Delhi golf course. It is a flat section. There are some sections which are slightly undulating on this, right? And again, this road is a little, there are, sections, at least until last year, there were sections of this road which were not very good actually. So this is one section. So from about kilometer 5 until about, what is it at the end of that, around the U-turn point, what is it? It's around 6
The
kilometers?
U-turn point is around 7 kilometers.
7 kilometers, right? And back.
Sorry,
It should be a
U-turn
little
point is
6-ish kilometers, and then I think you come back, it's about 7-ish basically, right? Yeah, so this is one section where you should be a little careful. You'll see what they will also do is, I think they put some sort of a divider on the road, and then people are, I think we run on one side of the road if I'm not wrong, is it?
No. Both sides.
We run on both sides of the road.
It is a smaller road.
It's a smaller road, and there will be people, again, there will be overzealous runners over here who will try to overtake you and do things like that, and then there will be packs of runners who will be running together, right? I mean, so just be careful here, and I'll come to the challenge with this section a little later once we discuss the entire route, right? There's something that we've spoken to the organizers about, and they've assured us something, so we'll come back to that later. Anyway, so you come back onto the Lodi Road, and then you're running again on the Lodi Road around the Delhi golf course, right? And then you go, you join the Mathura Road, and you go below the flyover, right? There's a road that goes just below the flyover and then merges onto the main Mathura Road, right? Now here you'll see some slight undulations just under the flyover, aside, after you cross the flyover, you'll see some slight undulations basically, right? There is also an underpass there. You'll be running right next to the underpass basically. You'll see some slight undulations over here, right? And by now, like Sanchit said, the crowd would have really spread out, right? By now you will be able to find your rhythm. It is probably a good idea to kind of dial into a particular pace and then just keep going. This is a section where you are pretty much on autopilot early in the morning, right? And we just keep going like this until the end of Mathura Road. So if we can go a little further up, we continue this trend until, there, where you take a left and get onto the Subramany Bharti mark. Okay, so again, I'm going to pause here before we go on to the Subramany Bharti mark. Any inputs on this particular section? That is from that left on Lodi Road, the U-turn, onto Khan Market Road, back onto the Lodi Road, onto Mathura Road until the end of Mathura Road. Any specific inputs that you want to share, Aditi, from your experience?
Sure. So the when you are coming back from Khan Market and taking a left towards Mathura Road, by now there'll be a lot of runners, especially if we say that elites would have ran before us. There will be a lot of spillage of water. There is a turn where there is a water station. There will be enough and more water stations. Yeah. So heads up. If you are someone who is worried about water and how the hydration is placed, there is enough and more water stations. I think there is almost at every 2.5 to 3 kilometer you will find a water station. Also, I'm sure by now you have a hydration strategy. Stick on to your hydration strategy. If you think that you need a gel a kilometer before, please go ahead, take, right? If as a runner, if generally I take every 7th kilometer, but on the go, please have that presence of mind that if you think that you require at the 6th kilometer, start taking. Coming back to the hydration and the spillage, please be careful, because as Karthik mentioned, that you will be going on the left side towards the Mathura Road. There is a flyover underpass. There is a slight elevation, right? So during the first loop, the elevation would be next to negligible. But as a runner who's run this course multiple times, if you are not pacing well in the second loop, this will become like it will bite you in your back, right? So be careful, be conservative, and watch your steps still, because it will be dark, right?
Okay, perfect. Aravind, you want to add something?
Yeah, this is easy for me in the sense that in Delhi there is not much elevation, so you don't have to do much from a pacing point of view. I think you should stick to the goal pace mostly. If you're like first half, you want to be conservative as a whole, which we discussed in the previous segment. I think you should stick to that strategy. As I think Karthik has already covered, I think Karthik, you're not leaving any points to me. Okay. So this stretch is actually very tricky. So narrow and curve. And I faced problems multiple times in the stretch because there is a lot of crowd and they tend to run together, so you wouldn't find a way around them. So you will have to kind of find the way here. And this whole section, I remember, is slightly narrower. Once you come on to Madurai Road, I think it's a lot more opens up, and I think then you can actually kind of pick up. Even if you lose a couple of seconds on the stretch, don't worry too much. I think you can cover it up later sections.
Okay, great. So Sanchit, again, I'm going to tweak the question a little for you. Let's say at faster paces, runners tend to run in packs basically. Given the lay of the land here, there's a narrow pinch point and then it opens up, and then there's a slight amount of undulation. And again, this section, there's been a lot of churn in terms of construction. I think finally now things have settled down. The underpass is ready. There is a reasonable amount of light. And this is also a section where traffic is there on the other side, right? It's one side of the road which they kind of cordon off for the run, but on the other side of the road there is traffic on the Mathura Road. So if you're running in a pack, how do you kind of conduct yourself in this particular section? And your general observations based on your runs over here.
I think for the faster runners, there won't be much of a pack by this point. It would be 4 or 5 people if you're genuinely going for a sub 3 by the 7th or 8th kilometer. So all in all, that should be fine. One thing I want to point out here is when you're turning left onto the Mathura Road, if you can go there. So that narrow pinch point also has a stone paving on it in the middle of the asphalt. Personally, I found it very destabilizing because it is at a slight bump also, and my shoes have slipped there once or twice over the years. So that is perhaps something worth noting. Another problem in this stretch, which I have faced twice now, is that just before the Oberoi Hotel, there are a few semi-permanent settlements, and as it is cold right now at 4 or 5 a.m., they'll burn some stuff to keep themselves warm. So there might be some smoke which might enter your lungs, and if you're not expecting it and you take a deep breath in and it goes in, you might not really find it that good.
That's a great point you make, actually, and thank you for bringing that point out. I think this is also a great point, Sanchit, because you are there. Sanchit is here as we are recording. Sanchit is in Delhi as we are recording this. A lot of the people who are not from Delhi and who come down for this race have this perennial concern about the AQI. So you want to comment on how the AQI is as of today when you went out for a run in the morning, and how it is going to pan out over the next 1 week, basically, in Delhi.
It's much better now if you compare it to the readings we were seeing in, say, November, December, and January. So it is peaking at roughly 200, 250 points during the early hours of the day at suppose 5 or 6 a.m. Then it slightly gets better as you approach noon. So I think you can expect a reading of 180 to 200 in the morning, which again, it's not ideal, but as compared to what people had been talking about and the kind of paranoia there is around the conditions, I don't think it's going to be as bad.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you for that input. And yeah, those are valuable inputs. I think that paved section and the smoke that comes from those the temporary settlements, if you will, basically. Okay, so yeah, and again, this section is reasonably well lit, so no need to worry there. Okay, which kind of brings us to that turn point, right, where you get off Mathura Road and get onto the, you make a quick detour onto the Subramany Bharti Marg, and then eventually, go on towards the India Gate hexagon, basically, right? Now, when you take that left off Mathura Road, it's a nice wide road again, right? Well lit, and I mean, here you should really be. You should have settled down into a nice rhythm basically by now. You'll have people of similar paces running around you, so you have your markers also by here. You know who's running where, and this would be a good point to probably inject just a slight amount of pace. Just kind of take it a notch higher if you've been conservative until this point, especially this straight Subramanya Bharti Marg section. It's relatively flat, and I would even say take that right and all the way until you enter the India Gate hexagon. Right. So now what happens at the India Gate hexagon again is, I think they close off one side of the road and the other side of the road is open. If I'm not wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but that's how I remember it. I think there are cones that I vividly remember, and then I think they have a codon, and then you just keep running around the hexagon basically. So this is a relatively, in fact, the entire thing is a flat section only, but this is again a relatively a flat and more interesting part of the section. So far, it's been running in quiet Sarkari government localities basically, if you will. Here is where you are kind of making your entry into Lutyens Delhi, right? You look around, you'll be able to see some landmarks here, right? And some major offices and whatnot basically. So yeah, just keep continuing over here. There'll be some amount of interaction with traffic, but nothing to be worried about. And you find your way onto the Kartavya Path basically. So you go around the hexagon, right? And again, here you should be careful, because here there is though I said you take it a notch up, don't take it too many notches up, because people tend to speed up over here, because here is where you really open your strides and you feel like I really want to make up for the time that I lost in the beginning. Don't fall to that trap. It's still early days, right? We're still at probably the what kilometer is this? It's about 10-11 kilometers by now basically. Yeah, so around 11 kilometers. It's still early days. You still have a good 30 plus kilometers to go. So maintain a controlled pace, right? And find your way onto the Kartavya Path, or the Rajpath as it was called. Okay. And once you're onto the Rajpath, it's one straight road. It's a beautiful sign. It's a beautiful, what should I say? Visual if you are running it for the first time, or even if you're running it for the nth time. There will be all these lights lined up, and you can see the Raisina Hill, the Rashtrapati Bhavan, and the Raisina Hill at the one end, and the India Gate on the other end, on the other end, or the War Memorial on the other end, right? So it's one straight road, right? There will be some activity, not much early in the morning. It's still dark, but at least in the first loop there might not be much activity. But this is one section where it's one straight flat road. You're running through historical monuments. You're running through history basically, right? And just keep going. Actually, here is a section. This might be a section where you may want to bunch up with a couple of similar paced people, at least have them in your field of vision basically, where you know where you are, and it kind of helps you keep track of yourself, right? So you go till the end of Kartavya Path, where kind of Kartavya Path meets the Parliament Street basically, right? And you take a U-turn over there, right? You take a U-turn over there and then find your way all the way back, okay? So yeah, again, I'm going to pause over here, right? You take a U-turn and then we'll discuss further. Anything you want to add over here, Aditi?
So Karthik, we are talking about my favorite stretch right now. I will not I will not get too poetic here. Having said that, yes, once you cross Mathura Road and then you enter the Hexagon and the Kartavya Path, it opens up. And once it opens up psychologically, also you might want to run a bit faster because it's also now it's daylight, right? So it's brighter than what you were struggling in the first 7
Well, not necessarily daylight. I think I'll just kind of, I'll kind of correct you. I think the sunrise is at 7 a.m., right? So dawn breaks much
Oh,
later.
yeah.
The first loop, it is still dark. First
Yeah.
loop is still dark. It's well lit, but it's well lit. It's
Yeah.
even in dark, it looks beautiful, right? The entire stretch looks beautiful. Yeah, I'll hand it back to you. Sorry, go ahead.
So sorry, it is well lit, and you can see Rashtrapati Bhavan, and it is also the time when you will now see people coming back, like taking U-turns. So people who are faster than you on this stretch from India Gate to Rashtrapati Bhavan, you'll see a lot of cheering happening, right? And as a runner, you yourself will get a lot of encouragement to match steps, right? Having said that, now is a time when you talk to yourself and say, from here on till at least till the next 10 to 12 kilometers, I'm going to lock in the pace. Do not try to experiment because you've trained for this. So sure and tell yourself that whatever pace you are here you should be able to maintain till the 25th or the 26th kilometer, right? Because this is the meat of the race. From
You're
the
right.
11th to the 25th kilometer is basically the heart and the meat of the race. So ensure that you stick around. And
Okay,
you will be
great.
coming here again.
Yes, great, yep. And probably by which time dawn would have broken, or you would be seeing dawn as you exit this section. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So Aravind, you want to add something over here?
So I think this is a section where you can cover up the last phase, if at all, in the previous sections, or the load flow section as well as the car market to Matura Road. So I think this section is what I have seen. You can gain a couple of seconds each kilometer because the roads are straight and you can actually kind of no interruptions kind of running for large stretches. The only thing that you need to watch out is there is some traffic that is around here. I mean, I'm not sure exactly which point I don't remember, but there are some small portions where there are some small vehicles. So you got to kind of.
I think where you enter the hexagon and you exit the hexagon, usually the auto guys are a little bit of a disconcerting factor over here. I think that entry point of the hexagon, and again, I think the exit point where you get onto Kartavya Path, right? You're right. The traffic can be a little, it can be a little bit of an irritant, basically.
It is small irritation, just avoid
Yeah.
those focus because there
Yeah.
is much better sections after that. So,
Yeah.
and then as you go along, I think these are fairly manageable section. There is a couple of U-turns, but I think not a deal breaker. The macro view I had to take. This is the section where you kind of pace up slightly above your goal pace so that you can get best out of the conditions at this point.
Yeah, I think that's a great point you make. I think this section, right from the time you take that left off Mathura Road, go all the way on Subramany Bharti Mark, take the hexagon, get onto Kartavya Path, do the U-turn. Actually, I'd paused at the U-turn of Rashtrapati Bhavan, but maybe we can extend the discussion now until the second U-turn on the road parallel to Kartavya Path, and then back, right? I think this is a section where pace will come. If you've kind of found your rhythm by now, pace will come easily to you compared to the other sections. Here, you'll easily be able to lock into a pace, which is both a good and a bad thing. A good thing because you don't have to expend that much effort. Bad thing because you might get carried away and start pushing more than what you really should be pushing. Remember, this is just the first loop basically, and by the time you come off Kartavya Path, the first loop, you are still at about 16 kilometers basically, right? I mean something around the 16ish mark actually, right? So yeah, I mean almost 17, right? So it's still early days if you think about it. So Sanchit, coming to you, you are the Delhi boy. Your impressions of, my question is two-part to you. Your impressions of running on Kartavya Path, basically. I mean, how does it, after all these years, does it still appeal to you?
To be honest, I'm kind of bored of it now. So when I go there, it doesn't really hit me as much as it's outstation runners. So from a strategy point of view, also, I think it's a pretty boring stretch if you remove the surroundings. You just have to keep doing what you're doing, and perhaps not expend yourselves too much, as was previously mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I do want to point out here is that if you zoom on to the 13th to 14th kilometer bit, basically that reverse L shape. So there's a lot of construction you can see here, and I believe this map is much older than the latest updated one, especially on the right side of
Okay.
this L. So there's a lot of construction you can see, but it's all done now. So you won't find that much dust and smoke here, hopefully,
Right.
because there's no construction staff there anymore.
I see. Yeah, I remember in previous editions, that's a good point you make. Previous editions, where Aravind is doing the cursor right now, there used to be a lot of dust over there actually, because a lot of that Central Vista project was going on. Now it's been completed to a large extent, as you say, and I think now it's a pretty clean pass that you get through this area. And the second part of my question, Sanchit, thank you for bringing this up. The second part of my question would be this: Delhi is a kind of race where you have at least 4 to 5 U-turns per loop, if not lesser, right? And it so happens that you see a lot of common, familiar faces on the other side. Now that, like Aditi said, can be encouraging also and can be discouraging also, depending on which side of the U-turn you are on, right? And especially when you're chasing a tight target like a sub 3. How do you as a fast runner, and do you also go through these cycles, and if you do, how do you handle these kind of moments, if you will?
If you are running it correctly, I believe you won't have the mental energy to register a lot of faces. That is what I believe. But sometimes it's very useful to, suppose you lock on to a face and then you decide, okay, let me just maintain X and Y margin from this guy, and you try to keep maintaining that distance, and as a result you essentially whittle down the kilometers. You don't realize you have run 6 more, and you just keep playing that mental game in your mind. Other than that, I have not really found much use of tracking people on the other side.
Fantastic. I think that's a great input, and like we said, keep markers, basically, keep markers of people. That kind of keeps you on track also. So okay, sorry Aditi, you wanted to add something?
So I was just thinking about how I was also, I think unknowingly we all would be doing what Sanchit just mentioned, right? But like last year also, I remember a friend of mine, she crossed me over here, right here, and I asked her what was her average pace, and she told me she's going to maintain a 4:45, and then at the 22nd kilometer I overtook her, right?
Right.
And it was and she actually had to slow down after that. So you are running your own race, and having these kind of trackers will also help, that that whether you are maintaining yourself or not, right? Whether you are going a bit ahead or you are not able to maintain. So these are just psychological checkpoints.
Excellent.
Just to
Excellent.
quickly add, look at 2 things, right? One, I think most of us have GPS watches, and we have paces, and we keep tracking it. So, in my view, for one, I think tracking others may not be a good way of finding what pace you are in, unless you're completely trying to compete for a position or something of that sort, right? Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. Especially if you have a goal and you're tracking your goal. I think that's number one. Number 2, I think the part which I find it interesting is that you get to see the familiar faces. They might give a shout, and you can give a shout, which I like it. I like to if I see a familiar face, either make a small shout at them, cheer them, or at least if they see, acknowledge them, right? So that maybe they are going through a phase. Slightest acknowledgement might help.
I think that's a great point, and probably, and thank you to all 3 of you for articulating it well. That's what I probably wanted to bring out, right? Each one of us is having his or her own battle out there on the course, right? Each one of us has our own goals, has our own reasons, has our own whys, if you will, for doing this marathon, and we might be in our own spaces. So a gentle nudge, a gentle acknowledgement, for somebody who somebody who you've been following basically on the course, especially on these kind of courses where there are U-turns, where you get to see each other pretty on and off, treat it in that way. Respect the other person for what he or she is doing out there, rather than looking at them as a, oh, he or she is ahead of me, basically, right? I mean, it's at the end of the day we're all in this together. Yeah, so I just wanted to kind of bring that point out. Yeah, so having said that, coming back to the route, so yeah, you then again take that left back, and then you're back, you just trace your path back. Yeah, you take the left back from that side, from the government offices back onto the Kartavya Path, and then trace your path back through the hexagon, and you come back to to the Mathura road again. I mean, you just so this is pretty much autopilot right now, right? Again, when you're coming off the Kartavya Path, be a little careful because there are usually some autos standing there, some traffic over there, right? And again, the point where Aravind just had the cursor right now, that cusp. That is also a point last year where they were burning stuff. Basically, they were burning some sort of stubble, and I don't know if it's stubble or what, but there was a strong, burning smell as we crossed that area. So anyway, nothing very significant. Just you trace your path back, get back on Mathura Road, and find your way back to the to the Lodi Road. Yeah. So can we move back to Lodi Road? So again, as you come back, no, we'd probably want to still be on the Mathura Road, where we exit the Mathura Road and get back onto the Lodi Road. Again, you should be a little careful here. You're going to come back on that narrow stretch that Sanchit was talking about, paved stretch, right? Now it's going to have a little bit more crowd, basically, probably, right? And so you have to be a little careful over here, and then you come here. Now the good thing about this stretch, what Aravind is showing, from the moment you enter Lodi Road, somewhere around the Oberoi, around the golf course, and all the way until Dayal Singh College, where you take the left onto Bhishma Pitama Marg, you will have some of the Delhi running groups putting up their folks. There will be at fair sporadic intervals, there will be some running groups from Delhi. There would be some of the sponsors who would have a staging area over here. You'll have some sort of chehel pehel or support in this area, right? So make the most of it, right? Derive some energy from them over here, and then you take that left and get back onto Bhishma Pitama Marg and come back towards the Nehru Stadium. And in that sense, you complete your first loop. Now, effectively, 2 loops of this is the marathon, and 1 loop of this is the half marathon. Closing comments on the loop before we get on to the pitfalls on this course. Aditi, will start with you.
So when you take the left from towards Mathura Road, there is a slight incline. The incline is very less, but there will be a little bit of incline, and after that there is a decline. So once you see the decline, then it is a decline till the end.
Correct.
Right? Either
Correct.
it is flat or there's a decline. So there is
Correct.
nothing to worry. Rather, for half marathoners, you all this is your last home stretch. So from that decline in the middle of the Mathura Road till the end, it's your final gear.
Excellent.
And the best part is, as Karthik mentioned, by now there are people who are cheering you, and you should amp up, take a lot of energy from people around you. There will be a lot of people on the other side of the road also who would have who would be at their own targets. So take that energy and push. So for half marathoners, while you start at 6:15, this is amazing stretch to go all guns blazing, right? And but for the marathoners, you have to ensure that you have to go through the route again. The same loop you will be doing the second time. And so the conversations in your mind will be much louder now. You will be thinking about various things, but ensure that you stay in the present. You stay on the step and not move to ahead or not fall behind. In your head, you are present.
I think that's a great point. And just to add to what Aditi said, right? On your way up also, when you go from Lodi Road towards Mathura Road, the first section is going to be slightly up, and then there's going to be, that flat downish section that takes you all the way to Kartavya Path. Same way on the way back, there's going to be a slight up, and then, there's going to be that net downhill until you hit Lodi Road, and then there's going to be slight undulations on Lodi Road before you hit Dayal Singh College, basically. I just wanted to add that. Aravind, you want to add something on this closing section?
Don't blame us if somebody goes there and then say, where is the uphill? I'm searching for it. And there is no uphill frankly. You might feel it based on where you're training, but if you're coming from Bangalore or somewhere else, there is no uphills or no downhills. It's all flat.
Yeah.
It's all relative terms. But that said,
This section it is a relative term. Thank you, Aravind.
Yeah. So, but this section is there is a water station around this. I think this is the station. Probably if you're a half marathoner, you should get used the station, and then probably one caffeine gel at this point, and then finish strong till the end. Even for the full marathoners, I think this water station, I think, is a critical station in both loops
Yeah,
around here.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but pacing wise, I would suggest go with the goal pace. I think this section nothing much to really talk about. Other than
Right.
that, since you're in the first loop, there is no traffic. I mean, there's no crowds as well. In the second loop, slightly different, but otherwise, kind of calm and nice in this section.
Yeah, and like you said, right, for the half marathoners, I think once you take that turn onto Subramany Bharti Marg, even before Mathura Road, I think from there you should really start accelerating, basically, right? Once you are, yeah, that left you take, I think from there you should really start, accelerating. And by the time you hit this road, you should really be. I mean, if you've paced yourself well, this is where you should really be going. It's all systems are a go until the end, basically. You just have another 3.5 to 4 kilometers to the finish line, basically, right? And this is where you should really be giving it your everything. For the full marathoners, it's still early days. Again, a strategy that I've seen, to give an example, Subhojit from Pune, he kind of crossed me around the 18th kilometer in the first loop over here. He was so conservative until the 18th kilometer, right? He crossed me over there and then went on to run a 3:05 or something like that, basically. So that tells you how well he handled the initial sections where he could come back and finish a pretty strong race, actually, right? So yeah, it's still early days for the full marathoners. Sanchit, you want to add something over here?
Yep, couple of points here.
Yeah, sure.
Which are exclusive to the first loop of the full marathon.
Uh-huh.
So roughly where the 18.5k mark would be, somewhere on Mathura Road.
Yeah.
So because it is still dark, and if you are running at a good pace, you won't have a lot of people around you. There is a possibility that stray dogs might try to run with you or jump out of nowhere.
Okay.
Just to see what's going on. So be mentally prepared for that. I mean, there's not a lot you can do. If you are too concerned, maybe stop. That's better than not being bit is better than anything else. But if it seems safe, perhaps just reduce your pace for a bit and continue on your path. And the same applies to the area in front of the temple, just after the left turn after the college.
Right.
So some people feed the dogs there, and if you are running in the night alone, maybe 2 or 3 other people, it is possible they try to chase you.
Okay.
So
Okay.
just keep that in mind.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Those are important insights. And yeah, I agree, especially near the temple, right? I think there a lot of people feed the dogs. They can get a little agitated when they see runners, basically. Yeah. Okay, so that kind of gives a preview of the route. It's going to be 2 loops for the marathoners and 1 loop for the half marathoners. Now, we wanted to talk about a couple of pitfalls, particularly more for the marathon from a marathon standpoint. So once you take that loop and go back, I personally have always found this section, once you're off Bhishma Pitama Marg and back on Lodi Road, that would be somewhere around the 23rd kilometer, is it? After 22, yeah, after that left turn, basically. And until about, I would say, where you do that Khan Market and then come back onto the Lodi Road, I found that section to be a little tough mentally. Mentally, I found it to be a little taxing. And most of my races have been made or broken over here. I don't know, I mean, we'll pick on the brains of the others also. But this, in my opinion, is the no man's land of this race. From that left turn onto Lodi Road until you probably, until the Oberoi. I may even extrapolate it until the Oberoi, right? From about 24 till about 28, 27, 28, almost till I would say about 30 kilometers. 24 till 30 is a no man's land in this particular race. How well you handle, in my opinion, how well you handle this section eventually decides the outcome of the race. This is a make or break section, in my opinion. So, here, you may have your moments, you may feel that you're pushing yourself, but the pace is not happening, and all sorts of negative thoughts start crowding your mind, right? Don't fret this section out. Kind of put your head down and like Aditi said, stay in the now. Even if it's hurting, even if there's some discomfort, push yourself through it, basically. Label the discomfort rather than just saying, oh, I'm struggling. Don't put yourself through a pity match over here. I'm going to kind of ask you people, Aditi, how do you find this section?
So I think this has this also plays with your psychology, because now you are doing the same thing again. So think of it that you've already ran and now you're doing a revision of it. Right? And obviously how many times are you going to do the same thing? But this is a race. And you have to bring and you have to be very clinical about this. Also, for marathoners, you will be meeting half marathoners here. So for the faster ones, you've already crossed the loop, and once you've crossed the loop, and when you are on the Lodi Garden side, the half marathoners will start. They'll be fresh legs, so they will be pumped up. Some people will be singing, and some will be cheering you. Just take energy from them. Everyone there is to give you the energy for you to take the next step. And for you, as I mentioned earlier, that from 11th kilometer to the 25th to the 26th kilometer is the meat of the race. So you lock in you have to execute your training, and the way you will execute your training during the race is what will help you, right? Marathons are long, brutal test of training, right? It is mental more than physical. On the race day, it is going to become a mental race. So talk to yourself and talk in a way which only lifts your spirit. Around you, you will be surrounded throughout the race, but you are running your race. It is your race. Do
Perfect.
not get worked up why somebody threw a water bottle and it or there is some burning happening, or there was someone who was shouting your name. It should not bother you. This is no more a dress rehearsal. This is the test of your training and culmination of a lot of long runs.
Perfect. I think this is good, and I probably want to kind of bring all that in, tie all that in. All these things that Aditi said may sound a little random, but they all have a role to play in this section because your mind is really playing games with you. Aravind, I'm going to slightly tweak this question, and you can also add to what Aditi said. But I'm going to slightly tweak this question. I'm going to take a stab at this point that. Would you assume that a possible strategy in Delhi could be that hold your horses, be conservative until 25, feel good at 25, and here is where the real race begins, the next 17 kilometers basically.
That absolutely makes sense, Karthik, because what I seen, this is my fourth marathon if I'm running this year. So in all the marathons so far I've seen, the pacing, I try to kind of be conservative, as in like effort wise, right? Not necessarily pace wise. Effort wise, as easy as possible till about as you come out of the car market road, right? Around here, right? Till you enter the Matura road again. So it will make sense to kind of maintain the same level of efficiency and form and feel good about how you're running, and the mental battle will start after that. So kind of I would kind of give whatever you said, kind of maintain the pace. One common mistake, even I have done it in the past, is that by halfway you normally know whether it's kind of loud and clear, right? Whether you're off the pace or whether you're in lock with your goal. So you tend to kind of correct it after the U-turn, right? So
Yes.
which is probably not a good idea because there is still a lot of racing to do, and if you speed up here and once you move into your threshold zone, it is hard to kind of come back, right? So kind of maintain, I would say, a kind of a tempo zone 3 kind of pace till you reach uh, I think around this mark 20, sorry, around Madura Road, right, at 30th mark.
Excellent point. Excellent point. Yes, I think that's a great point. There are a couple of things to unpack over here before I move to Sanchit, right? And I've done this mistake as well. We kind of get nervous when we see the watch, when we see the clock in front of us at the U-turn point, right? There's a huge clock at the U-turn point. You see, oh my God, I'm basically off my target pace, and that's where all this people who are in front of me, people who are back, the mind starts playing games with you. And then what happens is, I've done this mistake, so I can tell it off the bat, right? You try to speed up from 21 till about 25 until you enter Khan Market, and boom, your race is done basically. Because it is still 26 kilometers when you take that left onto the Khan Market road, right? You still have another, 16 kilometers to go, but you've kind of burnt, you've burnt the candle, and you've burnt the candle both sides by then basically. And you're like, oh my God, there's so much more to do after that. So I think I really agree. I really like the way you make that point, that until you get onto Mathura Road till about the 30th kilometer, if you can kind of maintain that zone 3, you feeling good about it, that would be the great point to launch what would be a truly strong finish from 30 till the end of the race. I think thank you so much for bringing that point up. Which kind of brings me to Sanchit. Sanchit, over the years, because I've participated in multiple editions of this race, people with pacers, people without pacers, people who are really going for a target, I see them, break down from this 25 till about 28 kilometers. So the one common refrain, and I don't want to sound discouraging, but I see a lot of people, when they're going for something, a big target like a sub 3, as they come off, right, if around that 27 28 kilometer mark they feel things are not going well, they just instead of taking the left, they take the right and go back to the stadium basically. They're like, I'm done, it's not worth it. The suffering is, I mean, it's human psychology, right? You're chasing something and it's not happening. The mind is saying, is it even worth, putting yourself through the pain? So how would you, advise people who are really going for a target and, who find this section to be very tricky mentally and otherwise?
I think it's most important to realize that it's natural. Of course, you'll tire down as the kilometers go by, and it's also worth noting that by the time you are at 20th or 30th, whatever, it will start to get a bit bright. The sun will start to peek out, and in a few more minutes, it will be out completely. So that also, at least in my case, it affects how I run, and it slows me down a bit. So you have to be conservative at the start, as others have already mentioned, to tackle this additional factor as well, because by the time you're back on the Kartavya Path, there's no tree cover there and the sun is shining from behind the India Gate, and you have to essentially bear the brunt of it on your face when you're going towards India Gate on your return loop.
Right.
So these are the things you have to keep in mind. If I have to add my personal views on it, I would say that let the degradation happen if it's happening, but at least degrade gracefully. Just hold on for maybe an hour or so more, and by the time it's over, you will be there at the finish line.
I really like the way you said degrade gracefully, actually. I think that's a great insight. Degrade gracefully. I'll make a note of it somewhere. That's a really nice point, actually. One more common pitfall that I wanted to bring is that reverse L that Sanchit spoke about, right? People go till the Kartavya Path, take a U-turn, come back, take the left. Then I see people slow down from about, what is it? After the 34th kilometer until, after the 35th kilometer rather, once they take that U-turn, from 35 till about the way back, right? From 35 until, I would say, even all the way back. I mean, it's amazing. When you're running, when you see people in the second loop coming back, it's a study in human psychology in itself. You see the faces tell you the story. Some of them are, they have a broad smile and, oh man, they're having the time of their life. Some of them are in a they're in their own pain caves, right? They're completely in their own pain caves, struggling to move, some of them, wincing, but still going on basically. So that's one more thing, which I feel is a common pitfall. A lot of people, after taking this 35th kilometer U-turn, and Sanchit, I think it has something to do with what you said. The sun has come out by now, the repetitiveness of the course, and probably, places where you've kind of sped up, all that kind of starts adding up on that return trip back on the Kartavya Path, basically. So I want you guys to share your experiences on it, because there's still about 6 to 7 kilometers of running left to the Nehru Stadium. How do you handle it? Aditi, how did you handle it? Were you in a similar space?
No, I was in a strong space, Karthik.
Excellent.
So I'll just talk about myself, right? And this is my experience, my way of training myself. So whatever I said, that I try to lock in my pace from say from 8th or 9th, and I'll continuously tell myself that from here be the same till the 21st kilometer, right? So till the half point. From 21st to 35th kilometer, I'll say continue being in the same range, unless I feel that after the 32nd kilometer, I have still more in me and I'm not depleting. So just if I have to take last year's marathon, my last 10 kilometers were fastest.
Excellent.
Right.
Okay.
And and from the 32nd to the 42nd kilometer, I ran the fastest stretch. Also, that was because I consciously told myself to slow down. Also, the Kartavya Path and all of this, there was, as Aravind mentioned, right? There were a lot of gestures, people cheering, there was a thumbs up, and it was like we were the ones running, right? So I almost felt that we are all running together. As you mentioned, Karthik, we were in it together, and it also gave me a lot of energy to push, right? So when I saw Aravind at near India Gate, he was already on his way back, and I had some time left, and in my head I was like, okay, let me just continue with my drill, because I mean, my friends are waiting for me.
Mm.
And from this U-turn, 35th kilometer, now is your time to shine bright.
Okay,
So
fantastic.
every kilometer, try to shave off at least 1 to 2 seconds. If not shave off, just continue being there.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah. Arvind, you want to add something to that? The last 7
Yeah,
kilometers of
so
this
a
race.
few milestones that people can kind of remember, especially in second loop. I think these milestones really help. So
Hmm.
Matura Road is the 30th kilometer. So from here you have basically 12 kilometers, right? So most of the long runs you would have done 30s, I would assume. So this is easy to pass. And then as you enter the Rajpath, which is the Kartavya Path, that is the 32nd kilometer, right? So from here you have exactly 10 kilometers, right? So you can think of this as a 10-kilometer race from here. Okay. And if you are a person who has some mental trick like countdowns and things like that, you can probably start here, like countdown like 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5.
Yeah, so the
So
good thing, I'll just interject there. The good thing is from there, when you're counting down, you're counting down one figure at a time, and it's into single digits
right,
now, basically.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Sorry,
And
please go ahead.
then, so this is the 32nd kilometer around India Gate as you are going back again to the race in a hill. So this section, I think, and then once you take a turn here, Karthik said 35th kilometer, but that is, I think, the expectation that the marathon physiology is where you basically kind of done with your glycogen, fully done. So you basically hit the wall. So that's basically the pattern, right? Everybody slows down here because of that.
Right.
There's nothing else, right? I don't think there is
Yeah.
anything in this section like there is extra magnetism or anything, extra gravity. There's no such thing. Right? So you basically
Yeah, yeah, true, true.
take a U-turn, and then this is another thing. At 36th kilometer, you have exactly 6 more kilometers, half a dozen, right?
Right.
So you can in fact start counting each kilometer itself. Like each kilometer itself, you can say I have something like 130 counts is 1 kilometer for my pace in terms of my breaths. Okay, so a number of breaths I take. So 130 is I've done 1 kilometer, so I have to basically the 36 is like 130 into 6 times. I just need to count and I'm done. So that is how I kind of manage. But you have your own tricks, right? You figure out what works for you, what your own mantra is. But I think from here, 36 kilometer, you're almost there. So you just need to kind of go on. And if you're a faster runner, I think you will see a lot of half marathoners, which is actually interesting. But at the same time, it can be a bit crowded in this section, especially I've seen where you take these U-turns. Quite a bit of half marathoners. Delhi is quite popular. I mean, I think over the years it become very popular, both for marathoners and half marathoners. But half marathoners are it is even more popular. And then I think 10K also starts at this point. So I see a lot of runners here around this area.
I think that's a good point you make, especially the Mathura road on the way back, right? In fact, I would even say that from the hexagon, right? I mean, I think
Hmm.
once you get off Kartavya Path, get off the hexagon basically, and get on to Subramany Bharti Marg, there is going to be a steady stream of half marathoners, which is probably going to have affect you more on the Mathura road basically, because it's one side of the road, and they kind of have a divider in between, and but nothing really disturbing as such. Only thing is, again, once you get back to the pinch point, you have to be a little careful over there actually,
Yeah.
right? More so because you're fatigued now basically, right? So and
Yeah.
for fatigued, or you're pushing yourself here, so there is all the more possibility of an incident over there. But I think once you're back on the Lodi road, then you're
Yeah,
good
I
to go
think earlier
anyway.
you mentioned about the zones. I think this is where I
Yeah,
think once you come here, I think once you're done maybe 36 itself, you're almost there. But I think
yeah,
once you cross the Oberoi and come into this road, you're definitely there, right? So you see the
yeah.
cheer zones. I think last year A6 had a cheer zone here,
Yes,
and
A6 had a
then
cheer zone, and then you had all Delhi Run group and all those
yeah,
people basically lined up
yeah,
over there.
I
Riti's
remember
Riti's group is there. A couple of groups
Nakul
that
was
I
there as well last year
Nakul
in
Bhatta
this
was
section.
there
Yeah.
exactly, right. So I think, yeah, the Delhi really comes out in its own over that's one section that reminds you of New York basically. So yeah. Anyway, I think those are some great points. Have those markers and then count it down. Another thing that Arvind said, I'd also want to add something that I do, but I've not done it over 6 kilometers. I think I should try that out. Is you can count the number of times one of your legs strikes the ground, basically, right? For every about 100 meters or 200 meters, how many times your left leg strikes the ground, right? Something where you can distract yourself a little from whatever is going on in your mind, actually, right? So just each one has their own hack. So try it out. And there are a good number of this. There's the Sai Baba temple. So say a prayer when you cross it, basically, right? All this helps. All this helps when you need
I
it the
want to know
most.
what what Sanchit's mental tricks are.
Mantra is, yeah. I'm just coming to Sanchit actually. I'm going to leave the last word with Sanchit before we kind of close this.
I would say it's fine if you are struggling. If it's hurting, it's good. That means you have been running the race hard. So just hold on. And philosophy can be personal, but what I want to say here is that it's fine if you don't walk the evening or the next day. It's fine. Just go all out here.
Okay. And your mantra, what are your mental hacks to deal with a tough section, particularly this section, if you will?
As if you just consider this race individually, there's actually nothing tough here. You can just go through your motions and complete the race. But as is with any marathon, you just have to dig in at this point, and maybe you can count down the kilometers, whatever. It's personal, completely personal.
Right.
Personally, I just want to. I visualize the finish line that okay, I have to be here, and then you just stop counting. Basically, you stop wasting your brain power on whatever is not required in the moment, and you just run.
Okay, fantastic. Nice. Keeping it simple, basically. Yeah. You guys can also think about chole bhature. There are a couple of places in Lajpat Nagar which serve some excellent chole bhature. I mean, if that motivates people to finish early, be a little hungry, and it kind of it motivates you to finish. I think anything and everything that helps. Again, you'll see some crowd support on the Bhishma Pitama mark, particularly towards the end. There is before Nehru Stadium, there is a left basically. All that section will be cordoned. You'll see a lot of families over there. So be sure to derive a lot of energy from all this. Why we're giving you all these pointers is, derive energy from it. So I think, we've done a fairly decent review of the course, and we've also talked about, the pitfalls that people can avoid. I'm going to kind of get the last word from each one of you. Aditi, your advice, you're not running this race this year, you're going to be in Boston. Of course, that's further a few months down the line, but you're not running Delhi. So your advice to runners, new and seasoned alike, for the New Delhi Marathon?
As I mentioned earlier, this is going to be your race. Stick to your plan. Don't get carried away. For marathoners, please don't get carried away in the first half of the race for sure. For half marathoners, this is a PB course, so this is the best place where you can get everything that you dreamt for and what you trained for. Apart from that, enjoy the race. Just enjoy the race.
Fantastic. And let me throw this curveball at you. I'm talking purely from a marathon perspective. Positive splits, negative splits, even splits. In your opinion, what would you do on this course?
I would go for the first 30 to 32 kilometers even splits, and then try to do the negative split, right? If I've maintained that, then negative splits is easy. But on this course, negative splits can be done.
Fantastic. Okay, great. Aravind, your parting thoughts, your advice to runners based on your experience of running this race more than once?
I think this is in my view, the best course in India as far as marathon is concerned. Flat, fast, and it has some charm to it because of the landmarks and what the city offers. Um, I would say if you are trained for your goal, this is the best place to achieve that goal, whether it is BQ or your personal best. So go all out, as in once you're go all out. I mean, as in I think earlier Sanchit was mentioning, dig deep. I think in the pain cave, some of those words, right? So I think those words you have to be prepared for. You will never feel comfortable. I mean, you might feel comfortable in the first 10-15 kilometers, but I think prepare for that kind of a pain, and it's inevitable. But whether you want to suffer that is the question, right? So pain is what Murakami says, right? Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. So I think so. I would say keep the goal in front of you and the training that you have done, visualize all that, and then conquer the goal that you have.
Excellent. And in your opinion, positive splits, even splits, or negative splits?
So, to be honest, so far I wasn't able to do a negative split here. Both the last two races I did, I had first the 2024, which is the race I did. 3:23 is the finish time. I had a 2-minute difference between first half and second half. 25, I had 1 minute difference. This year, I'm hoping I would do an equal split or a slightly negative split, and I think it is doable. It is just that Sometimes, you tend to kind of, bank. I mean, in the past, I used to have this strategy of banking time, but I think as I'm getting wiser, I feel that's not the right strategy.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So, which brings me to Sanchit. You've already shared a lot of pearls of wisdom with a straight face. Your parting thoughts and advice to people who will be running this race.
Well, firstly, I'm thankful that I wasn't the first one to call this the best marathon year, otherwise, could have been called bias. But I do agree that this is perhaps the best place in India to get your PB, and you should pace your race accordingly. Keep high goals for yourselves. Of course, you can readjust, but you should be ambitious, is what I would say, and make sure to have fun on this course.
And in your opinion, positive splits, equal splits, or even splits or negative splits?
I've never been able to run negative splits in my life, so of course it would be a positive split. I know it in my heart, but if I have to give a generic advice, I would say even or slightly negative would be the best thing to do here.
Excellent. I think with those thoughts, it's time to.
Karthik, yours. We will take your input as well. What is your take on your parting thought as well as your take on the spacing splits?
Thank you. I think parting thoughts. I pretty much resonate with whatever you guys said. It is the best place in India where you can really aspire high and even achieve higher or high. Right. I like the way Sanchit put it that it's not a crime to be ambitious here. Right. Be ambitious. What comes out of it is a matter of conjecture. But at least aim high. All the elements, all the ingredients are there. A flat course, cool weather. You can't ask for more possibly. So definitely, and one thing I definitely want to add over here, to the credit of the organizers, right? I think they've been open to feedback, and every edition there has been a delta in terms of in the right direction, right? There have been improvements. They've kept their ears open to feedback, right? Sometimes it may appear that they are not acting upon it, but in the long run they do act upon it basically. So every year it is getting to be a better race. The only thing is if they can kind of avoid that procession at the beginning, basically, try to get runners ASAP onto the start line rather than making them do a pradakshanam of JLN Stadium. I think that's one thing if they can work on, that'll be great. And like I said at the beginning, I've been assured by the organizers that that common pitfall is there. I think I should just cover that. Thanks for bringing this up. That Khan Market U-turn, as happens in most major cities, lo and behold, somewhere on your second loop, the light will just go off basically, because that's how NDMC, uses technology basically to switch the lights off. And people have fallen. People have had falls last year. Personally, if you ask me, I would love if this race did not have this section and instead just followed the VDHM route where you go on to Sansad Marg and come back. I find this Khan Market section to be a little bit of an irritant, but it is what it is. And I've been assured by the organizers this time around that they're going to have extra lights put up in that section to avoid this situation, because there's one point just before the break of dawn where the light just goes off basically there, and that can be really disconcerting. So just keep your eyes open. I think they're going to fix that, right? So which ties back to the larger point that I think the organizers are doing their best to make it one of the best experiences. Definitely is one of the better races in India where you can really do well, right? If you ask me in terms of splits, again, I've never really done a negative split except what I did in Mumbai recently in the half. So I still believe it's definitely doable. And I think I would go with what Aravind said. If you can kind of hold yourself back until the 30th kilometer, I'd put it this way. If you probably can hold yourself back until the 30th kilometer, I think at the 42.23, whatever your GPS shows, you will end up surprising yourself. If you can hold yourself back until the 30th kilometer, I think it'll be Sunday morning next, you will surprise yourself at the finish line. That's what I would want to put it as. I think that's a great point to end. All the very best to all of them, all of the people who are running the New Delhi Marathon. Have a great race, guys. Thank you.
All the best.
All the best.
Thank you to my guests, Aditi, Aravind, and Sanchit. We'll have you back for an interaction